first and foremost, I'm an actor. That's how I see myself. I see myself as a black actor, or whatever. I see myself as an actor.
Which is what you were seen as when you left RADA, yeah? Initially.
That's what I thought, but unfortunately, the world told me I was a black actor. And I could do this, I couldn't do that. I could play this part, but I couldn't play that part. Which, for me, was very difficult, because I wasn't that sophisticated when I came to London from Birmingham. I was a little bit, I just thought I was an actor and I was going to go out and play great parts. But when I left drama school, I suddenly realized there was another dynamic at work. And that, getting over that hurdle led to a lot of, let's just say, mental anguish. And that led to a mental breakdown, because I just didn't understand it. Why could I not play this part? That part was somehow off the map for me. And I'd never really, as a kid, you just imagine you're a cowboy, or you're a soldier, or you're the captain, or you're this, or you're that. So my imagination has always sort of run wild. So to suddenly know that my imagination suddenly had limits, that was a very disturbing thing for me. And I guess I've used my experience and my platform to raise those issues over the last 10 years.
You've had great success in the United States in recent years. Is it easier in the United States as a black actor?
I will say,
or as an actor?
I will say categorically that I get better roles, more three-dimensional leading characters. I get better roles given to me in America than I do here.
Why?
I have no idea. It's extraordinarily baffling. But look, I see the change. There are younger actors. As I say, we've got a generation of young actors. As I say, we've got Chiwetel doing really well. We've got the Nkuti, who's playing Doctor Who. We've got Daniel Kaluuya's doing well, winning Oscars. I mean, the idea of winning an Oscar, when I came out of drama school, the idea of even just getting a job on a film set was unheard of. Now you've got this generation of young black actors who are winning Oscars, winning BAFTAs, being invited into rooms that, where we were normally excluded from. So there's definitely improvements. There's definitely improvements. But I would say still, for me personally, the more dynamic roles are from America.
One of the phrases you hear, and I hear this, is you cannot imagine yourself being it until you see it.
Of course, yeah.
Okay? So with these actors that you've mentioned, people are seeing it. And the same happens in business. We've got business leaders in this room, right? All of whom, is there one person in this room who says they don't champion diversity? Do you want to put your hand up?
They what's that?
They don't champion diversity. Okay, so you all champion diversity, yes? Well, that was emphatic.
It should be a loud yes. Thank you.
Okay, so you're championing diversity. Do you see it all around you? Because I know what diversity looks like immediately to me. You know what it looks like immediately to you. As a person of colour, and I can answer this question, but no one's interested in what I say, you're the big Hollywood actor.
I'm from Birmingham, by the way.
Yeah, from Birmingham, but you're now in Hollywood and Canada. When you see it, how can these people in this room make sure it is seen? And make sure that 2 generations below us are seeing it and changing the landscape when we look at actors, when we look at business leaders, when we look at those who are brilliant and changing the landscape?
I think it's a question of being, it's active diversity. You've got to be active. You've got to go out and find it. You've got to go out and look for it and be conscious of it and be aware of it. Whereas I think if you just kind of leave it to the diversity office, and you create a diversity office and get a diversity officer, and then think it's automatically going to change, those people are the people are suddenly going to walk into your bank. It's not going to work like that. And I think, I've got a banker in the family, in the in-laws family, and we have this discussion all the time that he has to actively go out into the communities and find those people, and find those students, and find those people at university, and actively get them into the bank and encourage them, because for many of us, I see these people here, and I'm amazed at when I see black businessmen and black business people in this, because that's brave, man. That's brave. And what did you, the statistic you told me earlier on?
67% of businesses owned by black people have been turned down for funding.
67%. That's a lot of no's. So there's a lot of rejection. So I think for people to succeed in a non-black, in a white space, can be extremely difficult. Just even trying to succeed in that space can be very difficult. So I think we have to encourage people to even attempt that. And I'm not saying make it easy for them, because business is challenging. There's no promises in business. But I do think in order to get this new generation in, we have to actively seek them and actively encourage them to stay.
And make it accessible.
And make it accessible.
Harewood House. I want to talk to you about Harewood House because I think this does relate to business. Because I think it challenges a narrative, and you will explain the story for us, for anyone in the room who doesn't.
How long have we got?
No, you've got about a minute, and you know how to talk to time. Explain Harewood House. Explain how a house which your ancestry it almost dictated, and how you almost changed. Well, you've changed the narrative, and explain why that makes a difference, because it makes a difference to me.
Well, look, none of it was easy. None of it was easy, but, let me just, a quick history lesson, but at the end of the slave trade, to stop the illicit trade in slaves, many slaves, or free slaves, newly freed slaves, were given the surname of their slave masters. So, it's Henry Lascelles, who was a Lord Harewood. The slaves that were on the Harewood plantation were automatically given the name Harewood. Now, when I saw Harewood House, many years ago when I was working in Leeds, I saw Harewood House, and I just automatically thought it was just a coincidence for some reason. I thought, oh, that's a coincidence. That's Harewood House, the same name as mine. And I went to visit the house, didn't know anything about it. And then I did a documentary where I go back to Barbados and discover my roots, and discovered that actually I was a slave on that plantation. My great-great-great-great-grandfather. I'll tell you what, when they give you your family tree, and you see your family tree right back to a slave, it's really powerful. Because you see you can literally reach out and touch people who were oppressed and enslaved, who had your surname. And I then went back to Harewood House at the end of that documentary, and I met the current Earl of Harewood, David Lascelles, who I have to say really impressed me. And it was a week or two after George Floyd had murdered, so I was quite angry. I wanted to get my elbows out. And he was a very impressive man. And eventually I asked him, I said, do you feel guilty having all this opulence and this stately home? Do you feel guilty for owning it? And his answer, as I say, really impressed me. He said, I don't feel guilty because I wasn't responsible, but I can be accountable. And I thought that was a really interesting answer. And he has made it his mission to be accountable to that history. And ever since then, we've built a bit of a relationship. And he finally came to me and he said, and one of the things I said in that documentary was, the house is full of artwork of very posh white people and horses and wonderful settings, and there's not a single picture on the wall of a black person. And I thought to myself, well, considering we did all the work to build the fucking house, we should have a presence there. And a year later, his wife phoned me up and said, we'd like you to have a portrait in the house. And I am now the first black Harewood in Harewood House. But I think it's important. I want to make this point. Many people have said to me, why are you doing that? You shouldn't be doing that. There are some people who said, you should have nothing to do with it. And I said to myself, no. There are generations of black people who worked for nothing, for no recognition. I think we deserve our place in that house. And rightfully so. And I think when people walk around Harewood House and they see all the fine artwork, and then they stop at this picture of a black guy, and they read my biography, and then they read that the only reason my name is Harewood is because of slavery, they'll have a tangible, physical realization of the legacy of slavery. There is a living, breathing legacy of slavery, and you're looking right at it.
Thank you for explaining that. One of the thoughts I had earlier when I was looking around the room is I've seen tables sponsored, bought by big companies. Some of you are in the running, you know, you're on the short list and you've all done brilliantly well. And then I thought, we're all individuals. So we move from company to company. We ally with the values of companies. But at the end of the day, you go home and you kind of think, what have I done to make a difference? And what could I do to make a difference? I've benefited from the company I work for. I've learned. But ultimately, the company gets the kudos if it makes a change. David donated bone marrow when you were how old?
I was 35.
35. And you changed someone's life for as long as you could. And I wonder if, David, you could talk about just, it's all great. It's great being part of a company, and it's great that you're all doing what you're doing, but we're all individuals, and the individuals make the company. If you could have a thought for how we can change in a small way, go home and kind of feel proud for making this world better, for diversity, when we look around, what would you say?
Well, I say, don't leave it to anybody else. Don't leave it to everybody else. Don't leave it to somebody else. Actively embody what diversity means. Reach out. Make an effort. Pull somebody in. Have a conversation with somebody. Look out for somebody. Oftentimes, I'm 99.9% of the time, I'm the only black person in the room. And I'm used to that. I'm very used to that. But in your office, somebody might not be used to that. So I think it's important to have a bit of empathy and understanding. I think in terms of diversity, having empathy and understanding is extremely helpful because you never know when that person might need a helping hand. You never know when that person might need a word of confidence, a word of encouragement, just a little bit of a push because it can be a tough existence, as you know and we know. I've said things here tonight that might be in the Daily Mail tomorrow, and then
I will kill anyone
if that
puts it in the paper.
If that happens, I know that I open my social media and I just get for like 4 days I just get abuse. If I make a documentary which talks about race, if I mention something, I will be hammered for 4 or 5 days from knuckle draggers up and down the country, and it can be really stressful. And if one person comes up to me and says, "I really liked what you said the other day," if somebody stops me in the street and says, "What you said the other day, I heard you on Radio 4 talking about that Harewood House thing," well done. It just makes all that go away. And it just takes that one person to say, "I thought what you said was really important." And that makes me feel better. So never underestimate a word of encouragement when it comes to diversity.
Find someone. Find someone who has that tiny bit of potential that you think you can nurture and make a difference. This man has, and he's given us his time tonight. Thank you so much. David Harewood OBE.
Thank you. Up the Brummies! Up the Brummies! Good luck, Brummies!